I gave people all the stuff they really needed. Social Security checks, utility bills, TV guide.
I want a TV guidance counselor. TV guidance counselor. Staying up to watch all night, and everything's gonna be alright with my TV guidance counselor.
Hello, welcome everybody. Closing out January here. Hope you're doing okay. It's Ken Reed, your TV guidance counselor, and this is the show. TV Guidance Counselor. This is the show where we use back issues of TV Guide magazine as the inspiration for our conversation. And my guest this week is an old buddy, Allen Strickland Williams. Really funny stand-up comic. Hadn't seen him in a while. Hadn't worked with him in a while because I don't leave my house. But he's doing great, incredibly funny. If you don't know his work, go to allenstricklandwilliams.com. I put a link in the show description here. He's got an album out that's very funny called Ran Through. You'll enjoy everything he does. This was a great chat. I really enjoyed being able to sit down and talk to him. This is, the show selfishly. It's a good chance for me to meet and talk to people whose work I've admired for a long time and always kind of wanted to meet, but also people that I know, either old friends or stand-ups or whatever they are. It's a good excuse to sit down and catch up, which is always nice. So please sit back, relax, and enjoy this week's episode of TV Guidance Counselor with my guest, Allen Strickland Williams.
TV is my friend, and it has been always there for me in time of need.
Live via satellite from Los Angeles. Allen, how are you?
Good. Good to see you, man. It's been too long.
I know, you too. I'm enjoying the lighting you got going on there. You got like a pink kind of From Beyond thing.
I've got my neon on because it's a rare, not sunny day in LA. So it's like even if I open the windows to get natural light, and there's really just not much. So yeah, we've got a weird like House of the Rising Sun thing going on right now.
Yeah, it's like a little red light district. It's kind of good.
That's the vibe.
Yeah, which is fine. It's after dark. I was actually surprised. The issue you picked here was way earlier than I would have thought you would have picked, because you went. Where are we? 1979, May 7th to the 19th, 1979. So was it just your big Laverne and Shirley fan?
I will say I really like Laverne and Shirley, specifically Shirley. I was always a big Shirley fan. Had a big crush on, I think Cindy Williams is her name. Yep. And I watched just so much like Nick at Night when I was a kid that like it was kind of funny because I didn't know really what I was getting into when I picked this issue. But everything I was like, oh yeah, I literally used to watch Barney Miller all the time. Like what?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Because if you think kids now, like if you're like, hey kid, here's a show from 40 years ago about cops and they're just doing paperwork, and they would be like, you couldn't even get them to watch it, let alone be like, I love this.
I know. I feel like an old show to them would just be like The American Office. Yeah. Like that. I feel like that maybe Friends, maybe they go back to Friends, but like, yeah, it was a real blast from the past. That and all the cigarette ads were really, really spoke to me.
On the cover there I'll discuss in a moment. A friend of mine has a kid who's in fourth grade. I think his youngest is in fourth grade. And my friend sent me he took a picture of like the fourth grade yearbook because, it lists like the kid's favorites. And for his favorite show, he wrote Perfect Strangers.
Oh, wow. That's hilarious.
My friend was like, I don't even know how he's heard of Perfect. He's never mentioned it, but I guess they mentioned it on the Goldbergs or something. So he went and like found it.
Oh, okay. I would love it if Perfect Strangers had like a weird TikTok resurgence or something like that.
You never know. People doing the Bibby Bobka dance.
Yeah.
It's Balky-core. Yeah, the ad, because the way I scan these, you get the front and back cover on one page. And yeah, this first one is not for Doral. It's for Doral 2, a woman's cigarette, because it only has 5 milligrams of tar. But it's the top picture of the woman. She's doing like the small penis hand gesture, which I think is supposed to mean like not a lot of tar, but that's not what that reads to me.
I mean, I don't know. Do we just want to go through all the ads right now? I actually copied a lot of them. What it's your podcast.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. We'll go through as we see them there.
There was another one too. Let me actually pull it up because it made me laugh so hard. A lot of the copy on this stuff is just super hilarious. Like I do a lot of let's see, let me find it. It was like very early on, and it was just, I think the copy was like, decisions make a decision. That was like what the advertisement was, which I just think is so funny. Oh yeah, for Pall Mall Light 100s, decisions make your decision. It's like, oh wow, and
Someone
then it's
got
just a
paid for
picture
that.
of just a picture of a mountain. Yeah, and it is so funny too. They have all the like 12 milligrams tar, like they have the like it's a prescription or something.
Only
Um,
11.
but yeah, I thought there was one that was way ahead of its time. It's a teacher and a student, and it says, "If it's sick to love a pen, then the world's going crazy." I'm like, "Oh, this is just about vaping." This
Yeah.
is like it's just so funny how it's like now like an ad that you would see, you can't see cigarette ads anymore, but you can see ads for a pen that you can smoke.
Although I forgot how much regular writing pens were in ads because I end up watching a lot of old like TV huge blocks with like commercials and stuff. Almost every block there's a commercial for film
For pens,
and pens. Yeah, on
that's funny.
TV, like full on pen commercials. And it's just like they spent a lot of money to sell pens.
That's so crazy. Yeah, the other one I saw was like had some crazy name, Permathene 12. Watch pounds and inches disappear, trims away fat. And I was like, this has to have been bad. So I looked it up.
Oh, yeah.
And it was like the first two things I saw was like they had to take it off the market because it kept giving young women strokes. And then also it was causing psychotic breaks in a lot of women. So I
That
was like, oh my
explains
God.
disco. That explains a lot about
Totally.
1979. Yeah, most of this stuff is like weight loss and cigarettes. Like there's a cigarette called Bel Air, which I never heard of in here. But it has 30% less tar with 9 milligrams. But it's like this guy and a woman, and the guy's probably 20 years older than her. He looks like Rod Serling. And she looks a bit like Alexandra Paul from Baywatch, except with massive boobs. And she's got this t-shirt on that says fresh. And he's like throwing her into the ocean. But then it says, just the right touch of menthol. Never heavy, never harsh. The taste is pure fresh. Like, I don't
It's
think
just
so.
completely insane. Like these ads are like this is like I guess if we're tracking it for Mad Men, we're like real deep. We're probably actually after the last season of Mad
Yeah.
Men, and we're just there. Everything's about to change, and it's just so there's so much copy in these ads. It's just
Yep.
so funny.
I also love that I forgot how often booze companies and soda companies advertise together. like seeing soda specifically ever, because there's one in here for Seagram 7 and 7 Up, and it's like America's favorite couple. And you would see things for like Jack Daniels and Coke, like co-ad, which you would never ever see that now, like Red Bull and vodka.
I know, and it's funny too because like I feel like we're about to get there because now you'll start seeing like we started to like put whole mixed drinks into cans, right? So I
Yeah.
feel like there's a lot of brand opportunities there. I also saw one that made me laugh really hard because it was another weight loss thing. It says lose up to 10 pounds with this little bottle, and it's called Appetite Suppressant Droplets, but the name of it is AIDS.
Oh, AIDS,
So
yeah.
they're calling it they're calling it AIDS, and it's just like there's just this smiling woman on the. I'm like, oh my God, this is just such a funny time capsule.
There's TV ads for AIDS, and AIDS was
Oh
a
my God,
very
that's great.
popular weight loss supplement, I guess you'd call it, literally until like 1983 or 1984. And
Wow.
then the company specifically is like, we literally had to go out of business.
Yeah, there's no other option for you guys. Sorry.
It's like, nope. And the product you're making, probably garbage anyway. So I shed no tears for you. Putting women on speed. There was a great, well-written article in here that bummed me out a little bit. But it's about PBS, and the Children's Television Workshop has been forced
I
to
saw
answer
that.
charges. It spends too much government money, which, I mean, we're going to have this conversation all over again probably this year anyway. But I'm like,
Yeah,
awful.
there's a great I wonder if it's connected to this actually. There's a great YouTube video. You can look up Mr. Rogers in front of Congress.
Give
and
me
he's
goosebumps, Rogers.
Yeah. He like that's also what I'll watch that when like I need to access emotions, but I can't do it because I'm
Yeah.
an elder millennial man. I'll get that going, and then that'll get the waterworks going. But yeah, I actually kind of thought in the back of my head like, that looked like around the same time. I wonder if it was connected.
That was 69, I think. It was
Okay,
when they
so it's 10 years
first
later,
funded it. Yeah, and that guy was like not going to let him speak, and Fred Rogers was like, he's like, "You gonna read your words you wrote down?" He's like, "No, you have them. I'm just going to speak off the cuff." And then that guy was like, "I was supposed to be kind of a tough guy, but you got your money, Rogers."
Mr. Rogers, he has that way about him. It was funny too that I did kind of scan one article that was like, it was written, I think, from the last administration's press secretary, like the president's, and it's like we can make our press conferences better, and I'm like, yeah, how'd that work out? Look at where we are now. Like, geez. It's so funny to read through this.
It's Jimmy Carter's press secretary, I think, writing about, like what the Reagan press could be. And it's very interesting and well written, but it's like, oh, you poor man. You poor man.
I just love the idea too of like, cause I was like in real life, I was sort of like the end of TV Guide. I remember them being around every once in a while. I remember I would flip through them. So it was fun to just kind of like, I mean, not tactile because it was a PDF, but like, to kind of scan through it, I was like, oh wow, I remember what this was like. But just I'm like, wow, they had like an editorial team.
Oh yeah,
they had like writers. They had like it's like so just. I'm like, is there even a TV Guide website now? Like, does TV Guide still exist as an entity?
Sort of. It's split into 3 companies. So one of the things at this time, they were literally the largest circulation magazine in the world.
Right.
And so
okay.
They had the juice to be able to pay all those people and like commission art and commission articles and stuff. But also they could write really in-depth, good articles because they knew everyone was going to buy the magazine anyway because they wanted to see the listing. So they weren't like doing sort of the magazine equivalent of clickbait. They knew that the networks needed them. So if they were going to be critical of something, they were like, what are you going to do with TV Guide? So they could be really honest. But around 2010, TV Guide split into 3 companies. So there's TV Guide Magazine, which is still published. I don't know why. I think it's a front for something. There's TVGuide.com, which is a separate company. And then TV Guide Channel is technically still the corporate name for, I think it was Pop. I think it's Freevee now.
Oh, okay.
One of those streaming services, but that technically is still TV Guide Channel.
Gotcha.
So it's a very weird thing. There's a little like gossip update in here right next to the Paul Malls ad. And I didn't know about this, but infamously the late night wars with Carson quitting in the early 90s and all that. This is 79. And it's like, does Carson have hidden motive and threat to quit? So I guess he was threatening to quit around this time. And it was like a huge like power play going on. I never heard about any of that.
Yeah. I feel like the more we find out about Carson, the more it's like, oh, he was just like a real piece of work.
Oh yeah.
Like he was a real whiny baby. I think, there's some great crazy story about him, like, finds out his wife is cheating on him, even though he's like viciously cheated on her for like decades. And like, he's like just outside of some apartment building holding a gun and crying. And his lawyer like had to come get him, it's probably might've been some substances involved in there, but yeah, that's, I mean, I do. And I'll watch an old Carson. I actually liked too going through and seeing Dick Cavett in the TV Guide. I've always liked Dick Cavett, but yeah, he's just obviously such a piece of work.
Yeah, not a nice man. Like weirdly, the way people think about Ed McMahon is kind of more like what Carson was like.
Right. Yes, 100%.
Which was a good move, a good misdirection on his part. Let's have Ed McMahon on.
He has that old. He did. I think he did start as an amateur magician. So maybe that's a little misdirection for you.
Have you seen the Honest Liar documentary about the Amazing Randy?
Oh, I loved it. I love the Amazing Randy. Yeah.
And the Carson stuff in there where they oh, it's so good.
I think the Amazing Randy, that was, probably the first special I saw where I was like, oh wow, is that what comedy is? He's always calling the audience rubes and stuff too, which I always thought was super funny.
To open your set being like, I'm gonna lie to you.
Yeah.
This is what we're doing. And they're like, okay. And then before we get to the listings, there's another ad here for the secret miracle wrinkle smoother or something that you can buy at CVS. But the tagline of this is so incredibly condescending. It says, next time your husband looks at a more attractive woman, make sure it's you.
It's funny too, because I'm like, this is back when like clearly they'd like come up with a copy, and they'd be like, "It's great, right?" And they're just like, "Yep, it's great," and we're not going to think about it anymore. It's like, wait, what? Wait, more attractive? Wait, is she a clone? Like, what's going on here?
And also they're just like, your husband's going to look at another woman and she will be more attractive than you. That's just
Yeah.
going to happen.
Yeah.
And there's a quote in here, a comment about it from a man. This is my favorite part. It says, quote, "I'm a 54-year-old male who has spent the past 30 years grooming models, actresses, and major pageant queens. But I've never been able to improve myself until I discovered Secret Miracle."
Oh, that's great. I also love that it's like that. This is back in the day where you could just literally say you're a groomer.
Yes.
You could just say you're grooming.
Here's a list of the people I'm grooming. This is my resume. Then there's I don't know who Maury Wills is. Maybe he's a baseball player or something. But he has an ad for El Producto cigars.
Yeah, he was a baseball player. Yep.
I remember my first El Pro. I had to steal to get it.
So funny.
Costly
So
Caribbean
funny.
filtered tobaccos.
God, and he looks like it's just so like these are so dated in a way where I'm like, wow, people really used to look like that. Like now everyone's so airbrushed and
This guy's probably 30.
exactly. Yeah.
I can't tell if he has a shirt on or not, which is real confusing.
Oh wow. Yeah. I think maybe like a turtleneck
scarf?
and a jacket or something.
maybe, I can't even tell.
That's so funny.
Like,
That's
we'll
hilarious.
never know. So let's dive in here. Saturday night, what are you doing?
Let's see. What do I got? I got it right here. So, 8 p.m. Saturday. I thought I'm a big fan of car chases out here in LA, so I thought Chips would be a good place to start. John and Ponch try to identify the Phantom, whose daredevil stunts on a souped-up motorcycle are played out at the risk of innocent lives.
Yeah, this is an evil Knievel, basically.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny.
Which is that's a good angle for a show.
Yeah, I like, it's funny because I don't think I ever really actually watched too much of Chips. I just know that that's like what gave the world Eric Estrada.
Mm-hmm.
So thanks, I guess. But that's really a lot of these two were things where I was like, oh, I've actually never seen them. I wouldn't mind, taking a look and seeing what it's all about. But Chips is California Highway Patrol.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And the episode, if you're going to check one out, there's a punk rock episode where
yeah.
Chips and Ponch have to go undercover because highway patrolmen do that apparently.
Uh-huh.
And they have to go undercover as like punk rockers. And there's this scene where they're in the locker room at the station and they're like slam dancing into each other to practice. It's ridiculous. It's completely ridiculous.
I love that. I'm like, oh, did Cruisin' just come out? Like, is that, did they get the inspiration from
Pretty
that?
much. Like, oh, we're going to go undercover. Yeah, that's a fun one. Little Ghost Rider influence in there as well.
Absolutely.
Which I'm super
Yeah.
psyched about.
And then I'd probably flip around too on Saturday. I'd probably go, because at 8:30, The Hobbit animated, which I don't know if you, just insane journey into darkness. I'd probably flip between Chips and The Hobbit.
This presentation of The Hobbit is sponsored by Xerox. I don't know why. Like it literally is like sponsored by Xerox. That is a weird movie. I wonder how many kids who really like the new Lord of the Rings series went back and watched the Ralph Bakshi like animated movies and were like, something happened to me, man.
It feels like it was sort of retconned out of existence or something. I feel like no one really like talks about it or anything. But I mean, I remember watching it, and I was young, I was a kid, but I remember watching it once and being like, "Oh my God, this is scary," and then watching it the next time, being like, "Oh wait, I actually think this is like bad production." And so it kind of took the scare factor away from it a little bit. You got to watch it twice.
You ever see the movie Wizards that he did?
No.
It was sort of, he's a really weird character generally. Like he started, first thing he worked on was that 1968 Spider-Man series, which is where all those memes come from. Like
Right.
And he was like a real low budget kind of TV animation guy. And then he started making like adult cartoon movies in the 70s, like dirty cartoon movies, like American Pop
Cool.
and Fritz the Cat, and like these movies.
Oh,
that
okay.
were like,
Fritz Scott. Okay.
so then he was like, oh, I'm going to do some kid stuff again, but it'll be like prestige. So he got the rights to the Hobbit movies, and they did like okay-ish. So he was like, I'm going to do something along those lines. And in 1980 or 81, he made this movie called Wizards that takes place in like a post-apocalyptic America. And there's like these weird wizards that are like warring with each other. And it's really dark and bizarre. And nobody liked it because it was like way too heavy for kids. And adults were like, I don't know what the hell this is. And
wow. I'm looking at pictures of it right now. Yeah. It looks insane.
It's insane. And then the last movie he made was, oh my God, with Hollywood If She Could, Cool World.
Cool World, for sure.
And then he was like, I give up now, if I can't.
Yeah.
Cool World.
Well, go out on top, man. You know, Cool World. I remember that one rocking my world back in the day. But I didn't know that those were all connected.
Yeah. He's like this big Brooklyn guy. There's a good documentary on him. He got his job in animation. He went to, I think it was iWorks, which was based in New York. And he literally just grabbed a desk and just like George Costanza'd it. Like he didn't work there.
Pretended to work there.
He just pretended to work there. And they were like, you work here, right? And he's like, oh yeah. And then he just worked there eventually. You could do that then.
And also on Saturday, I'd probably stay up. I'd probably watch SNL. Linda Ronstadt was the musical guest. So I'd probably clue in for that.
This is live. Maureen Stapleton is hosting. This is 79. So this is the last year of the original players.
Right. Yeah.
We got that influx of, we got the Gilbert Gottfried year. For six episodes. Also, I always like to look at who was on Don Kirshner's rock concert.
Oh,
which
nice.
is on at 1 a.m. And this is a weird mixture. It's the Bay City Rollers, the Brothers Johnson, Alice Cooper, the New Riders of the Purple Sage, who I'd never heard of, Dion, comedian Glenn Supper, and the Village Idiots.
Wow, I really need to see what Glenn Supper's act is.
Yes.
Now. Is it Supper like Supper?
Yes, Glenn with two N's, so Supper. Glenn Supper.
Like it just makes me want to do a character called Tony Denner. Or something like that.
Oh, 1979, so like a rock and roll comic thing. I can't even imagine. I can't imagine what that's like.
That one band had to be prog rock. The Purple Sage.
New Riders of the Purple Sage.
That's got to be like the worst prog rock you've ever heard.
Oh my God, that sounds like such a made up name. The Brothers Johnson are pretty sweet though. They did that song Stomp.
I've got a Bay City Rollers album.
They're not bad.
They got some tunes.
Alice Cooper's the weird one on there. In 1979. That's when he had gone kind of new wave when he did Zipper Rip Skin or something. It was this weird record that was like kind of a new wave record that it's pretty decent, but it was like everybody hated it.
Out of nowhere. Yeah.
They're like, we don't like this. Pre-Man Behind the Mask from Friday the 13th, Part 6.
There you go. That's the demarcation line.
Yeah. Sunday, what are you doing?
Sunday, okay, 8 p.m. I'm tuning in to see Ruth Buzzy on Wayne Newton's Having a Good Time on New England's number 27.
Yep.
I'm going to do that, and I'm going to bounce between that and Guinness Book of World Records. This is just these spoke to me. Most tap dancers in a chorus line, most bees on a man's face, and most women kissed in an 8-hour period. I don't know why 8 hours, because it's a work day. This was the 70s, I guess. Other participants tried to play a musical duet underwater, blow up hot water bottles like balloons, walk on 25-foot stilts, escape from a straitjacket while suspended from a helicopter 200 feet in the air. So I'll bounce between those.
I'm going to look up what the record is for most women kissed in an 8-hour period, because it could be like 6, right? So, like, do you have a guess? We'll do the over under.
I'm going to go higher. I'm going to say like 50, 57 or something like that. Or 8 hours. Wow. Huh.
The 8 hours makes me feel like they're not necessarily willing. Like trying to win them over seems like it was part of it. If you're taking that much time, let's see if the internet has this here. Most kisses given in 8 hours. Guinness World Record. The current record was set in 1998. So whatever this guy did was blown out of the water. But the current record, which was done at the Minnesota Renaissance Festival.
Sure.
On September 12th, 1988, 11,030 people.
Okay. Wow. All right. So that's a lot.
That is not sanitary. Right. Yeah, so I don't know what that guy's. Again, it would be funny if his was like 7, and then the next guy has 11,000. They're like, "You can stop. You've blown this out of the water." He's like, "No, no one will beat this."
It's kind of a cheat code doing it at the Ren Fair, though. I feel like it's got to be more of a neutral site. I feel like that kind of like that. I feel like that cuts the number in half. To be perfectly honest.
Yeah, that is kind of a cheating kind of thing.
Right.
I will mention This Old House premiered this week. So 1979, they did the first ever series of This Old House. It was like a really weird concept, which sounds hilarious now, but literally 13 episodes of some guys restoring a house. They were like, who would watch this? And it became like this weird fluke hit. And the 2 seasons after this, they filmed one in my hometown.
Oh, nice.
So we got to go watch them, and it's one of the most infamous ones because like the part of the concept of the show in the early days was like sweat equity and the homeowner would help. So it was a lot of like DIY stuff.
Okay.
But these people from Melrose were like, we're not doing shit. And so Bob Vila was like, I'm not doing anything if you guys aren't helping. And they got into like huge argument, and it was like a huge standoff of like them not doing anything and they wouldn't help. And it was pretty great.
You're never going to see Bob Vila in that role. I like to imagine hard-nosed Vila. Let's see what the other stuff I saw on Sunday that looked good was 9 p.m. I would probably hate watch Jerry Falwell's textbooks on trial sermon. I'd probably yell at the screen, maybe mute it, maybe put words into his mouth like he's saying he has to go poop a lot or something like that. And then 10 p.m. I didn't know. I thought Scared Straight was invented, or whatever you want to say, on MTV or whatever it was on, but I didn't know that it had been around for a while. So it's an Oscar-winning documentary. Cameras followed 17 teenagers to the juvenile awareness program in Rahway State Prison, Rahway State Prison,
New Jersey,
where convicts use graphic language to describe prison life. Host Peter Falk interviews the teenagers before and after the tour. One more thing. Were you scared?
Oh, I forgot. When he said that he would, they showed that to us in school.
Wow. Okay. Wow.
And it's like even more shocking at the time because you didn't see that. It's literally like 10-year-olds and big dudes are telling them like they're gonna have their way with them in their face and they're crying. And I'm like, I didn't need to watch this. Like, I get it. Like you didn't. You don't need to tell me. But they're like, you all need to watch this. It's very important. There's also a Shirley MacLaine at the Lido a special.
Oh, yeah, I saw that ad. Yeah.
Oh, man. Her and Tom Jones, the Bluebell Girls. This looks like a huge 70s mess.
We're still in the age of variety shows.
Oh, yeah.
It's like kind of an interesting thing that those really fell off. But they seem kind of fun. Honestly, I kind of miss them. Yeah,
it's because everyone knew it was stupid. Like no one. I've never seen a variety show of that era where someone's like really serious. Like you couldn't be.
It would be funny to be like the producer that's like trying to win the variety show Emmy category every year, like really going for it.
I just realized Scared Straight won an Oscar.
Yeah, that's what it said. I had no idea that it was. I thought that it was. To me, it seems like an MTV executive's fever dream. Very much like pitch, like that would never be allowed. But no, I kind of actually want to go back and like find this and watch it.
I love the ad because the prisoner guy they picked is like mid like yelling, and the kids' faces were like, and it's like just a really simple paste up too. Like it would have been such a pain in the ass for them to get those like stills. Like that's a fun job. Monday, what are we doing?
Okay, Monday, I got it right here. So Monday, I saw at 8 p.m. There's Joker's Wild. That I would want to watch because it's have you seen that movie Quiz Show?
Yes.
About, I think the show was called 21 back in the days. It was like, for the listeners, like, sort of like corrupt. The contestants had the
It
answers.
was fixed, yeah.
The game was all fixed. It's what the producers of that made like 20 years later after like everything kind of died down, which I've never actually seen it, so I'd want to see that.
Oh, you never seen Joker's Wild?
I never seen Joker's Wild. No.
It's pretty interesting. It's real dumb. It's basically 21. It's basically blackjack, but as a game show. So
Okay.
like the majority of, you'd answer questions, and then for each question you answered, you'd get like a chance to say higher
Flip
or
a
lower.
card or something.
Yeah, so they'd be like, okay, 10 of spades is going to be higher or lower. And then they're like, higher. It's like, it's just it's just a 50-50 guess. There's no skill to it. It's literally just guessing every round. It's like, all right.
That looks good. And then I'd probably be watching based on the title alone. And then I did find an ad for it too. 9 p.m. on Monday, an ABC Monday night movie, A Vacation in Hell.
Yes.
The description is a swinging blonde, a mother and her teenage daughter, a love-starved woman, and one man. Their luxury vacation suddenly turns into a nightmare struggle for survival against the untamed jungle and their own savage passions. It's just like, oh, wow. So White Lotus has been happening for quite some time.
It
So that's cool.
stars Priscilla Barnes from Three's Company and Maureen McCormick, a.k.a. Marsha Brady.
Oh, wow. Okay, nice.
That's her in
Yeah,
the pigtails there in the back.
Oh, wow. That's insane. Yeah, I just love this. Like, I mean, I feel like we used to be a proper country. We used to have movies called A Vacation in Hell.
Yeah.
We need to get back to that.
There's also it's up against a few things. One thing, and it's before the purview, but I feel the need to mention it. On our local news magazine show at 7:30, Evening Magazine, that episode on this Monday night in May is After the Bomb. Nevada
Oh, wow.
provided a testing ground for hundreds of nuclear explosions during the 1950s. In part one of a two-part series, Evening visits a town near one of the sites 20 years later. And then it goes, also, extraordinary jazz musician Lulu White. Like, how mad would you be if you were Lulu White? Be like, what the fuck, guys?
I got to follow this.
You put
That's so funny.
put me on with the nuclear bomb. And then on CBS, which is extra weird that this was on, because especially at this time, CBS was like the old people station. Monday night, 8 o'clock, Exploring Human Sexuality, The Body
Oh, wow.
Human. This is an Emmy
Oh,
and
wow.
Peabody award-winning series. It looks pretty risque. It says, tonight, look beyond the birds and the bees for a remarkable vision of the sexual body, its pleasures and purpose from childhood to maturity, as never before seen on television. Meet a woman whose femininity is saved, a man whose potency is restored, and a barren wife given the chance to conceive.
I love this too. I wonder if this was like, before there was like real cable and like sort of like soft core stuff. Like, for a whole generation, the teenagers probably looked to this one CBS expose as a potential for whatever you want to call it.
Some woman getting hormone treatment and they're like, oh yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's the stuff.
So you could watch that and then
Hormones.
immediately switch over to Maureen McCormick in like ripped clothing on a desert island.
Yeah, so you get it going. Yeah.
Then there's the AIDS ad, which is funny because the AIDS ad is right opposite a big ad for Benny Hill.
Oh, that's great.
Benny Hill and
Benny.
AIDS, everybody. God, I hate Benny Hill. Oh, my dad loved it and I hate it so much. It's so hard to watch.
He's always going in and out of all those doors. It's
Oh,
like, just
yeah.
stay in one place, man.
The SCTV had one of my favorite sketches they ever did, and it was Benny Hill Street Blues. And
Oh,
they
that's
did
funny.
an episode of Hill Street Blues, but like starring Benny. It was very funny. Also, Tuesday afternoon, before we get to the nighttime, Merv Griffin has Albert Brooks on. And comic
hell yeah.
Ronnie Shell and Henry Morgan. I would watch
Nice.
any TV Albert Brooks appearance, especially from then. They're always hilarious.
Absolutely. He was like, that was when he was on his tear.
Yeah. And he was just like, I'll do whatever weird thing and they'll just let me do it. Like some of the stuff you would get away with then. It's like, this is amazing. It's much different from Gary Supper.
Okay. Let's see.
Oh, In Search of that night at 7, which is a great bullshit show hosted by Leonard Nimoy, if you've ever seen it. It's like Unsolved Mysteries.
Oh, no, I've never heard of that.
It's always like supernatural things. So they did a great one where it was Leonard Nimoy in search of the Amityville Horror, and he's actually in the real house, and he's just like, this is bullshit. But this one is weird because it's normally like Bigfoot and stuff. But this one's 7:30 in search of Sodom and Gomorrah. Did these two wicked cities really exist?
Oh my
Okay,
God.
Leonard.
That's great. Let's see. So Tuesday night, what do I got here? Oh, this is like golden age of TV right here.
Gary Marshall stuff.
Yeah, you got Tuesday at 8, I'm watching Happy Days. Tuesday 8:30, I'm watching Laverne and Shirley. Tuesday at 9, I'm watching Three's Company. Like, it's pretty easy right there.
There's also an ad in here for the Lenny and the Squigtones debut album, which I've never heard.
Oh,
It's great.
oh, that's awesome. I remember. That's so funny. God, I was just thinking about how, what's that guy's name?
Michael
Who's
McKean?
also in Break. Michael McKean. What a career.
Yeah.
Incredible.
And such a good musician. Like the fact, like that album is legitimately good and really funny. And he did it, a year before Spinal Tap, and that kind of stuff. It's just like, man, that's a good run.
Oh, and also late on Tuesday, 10:30 p.m., Dick Cavett, Ralph Nader is the scheduled guest.
Yes,
so you know
all
I'm
week.
staying up late to watch Ralph.
He's on all week. So every night it's him
That's
interviewing Ralph
fantastic.
Nader. I have to read this Three's Company description just because the show is ridiculous and horny. But I've never seen a description start off with these 3 words. Tongues start wagging. When Chrissy and her new boss go for drinks at a fancy hotel, then plan a business trip for 2. Like, would that make tongues wag? Like, people are like, oh yeah, her and her boss. Like, maybe I'm misunderstanding what tongues start wagging means.
I think it's like an antiquated way to just say like people are talking, but it's so sensual
Yeah.
and gross.
I'm thinking like, cartoon wolf kind of thing.
Yeah. Auga.
Yes, tongues are wagging, everybody. My God. And then Tuesday night at 11:30, one of my all-time favorite movies ever, the best Boston movie ever, Friends of Eddie Coyle is on ABC.
Oh, love that movie.
And the
Nice.
ad is so cool because it's like this weird airbrushed art of Robert Mitchum. And then you get Peter Boyle in the back. Oh, it's such a cool image.
It's such a good title too.
Yeah, I love that. That movie is like the Boston I grew up in, for better or worse. So it just
Nice.
feels oddly like comfortable. I was at 9 a.m. I just saw this scrolling on Dinah, the Dinah Shore show. So 9 a.m. she has Frank Zappa, Peaches and Herb, Jan and Dean, and Hugh and Barbara Gibb, parents of the Bee Gees.
I didn't realize that Dinah Shore was a 9 a.m. show. That's crazy.
That's very weird. Wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot. Like you see in Frank Zappa at 9 in the morning. I don't know if you're ready for that.
No one is. Let's see here. What do we got? Wednesday. Wednesday at 8. This looked interesting. I had never heard of this, but Real People, that's the name of the show, is a comedy. Interviews with a private citizen who is building a one-man rocket and a 66-year-old who loves flamboyant clothes and discotheques. Also, visits to the world's largest pizza parlor and the last bastion of the U.S. cavalry, Fred Willard.
Yep.
So I guess Fred Willard hosted this.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to see this.
This was NBC's answer to That's Incredible. So these were like 2 rival shows. I think this is still true, but at one point, Amazon Prime had all the episodes of Real People you could watch streaming. And it was always bizarre because I love a 66-year-old man who loves flamboyant clothes and discotheques. It's like, so it's a 66-year-old gay guy? Like you're making a news story of this. Like we can't believe it. This 66-year-old guy. Like that would get you on the news. I'm wondering where the largest pizza parlor was. That sounds kind of interesting. But yeah, this is the premiere. It was such a weird show. Like it would be that thing where it was like, this is a yogi who's going to get in a glass box. And here's a woman who collects dead squirrels. Like it would just be the weirdest things. Very fun. You never knew what you're going to get to watch there.
I'd also stay up until 10 and I'd watch again, just based on the title alone, Vegas, and yes, the S is a dollar sign.
Yep.
Someone is trying to stop a former superstar from making a Las Vegas comeback, which is also just one of the like, what? What does that mean? But yeah, I'll watch anything if there's a dollar sign in it. It's like when James Cameron pitched Aliens
With the dollar sign.
It's like who did they just like put the dollar? Which came first? I guess is what I'm saying.
This was a pretty decent show, actually. It starred Robert Urich, who was in Spencer for Hire later, and his character name is ridiculous. His name was Dan Tana.
Oh, hell yeah, dude.
And he's like a private detective, but the thing that was most memorable about this show was he had this like fancy sports car in his apartment in Las Vegas. He could drive the car right into the living room.
Oh, hell yeah.
It had this
That's
like
awesome.
rotate. Everyone's like, oh man, I want a Dan Tana apartment with the thing.
That's great.
It was only on 2 seasons, but it's not a bad, like kind of sleazy crime show.
Nice. We need more of those.
There's also there's an actor named Bart Braverman in this episode.
Yeah, I love that.
He's playing a character named Binzer.
So many names that I saw just throughout the entire thing seemed fake.
Oh yeah.
Like there's the pistol packing ladies ad. I forget what it was for, but like every name in there looks just like a robot made it up or something.
Yeah, it's like a
that.
Simpsons. Yeah, that was a show called Nightingales, which was like nurses that also fought crime.
Awesome.
Ridiculous names.
Awesome.
Yeah, very, very strange. But yeah, Vegas, not that bad. Thursday, what are you doing?
Thursday, all that really jumped out at me was previously mentioned Barney Miller. Harris comes unglued after he's shot at in the line of duty by uniformed officers who reacted on the basis of his color. So sounds like we're going to get into some real issues on this episode of Barney Miller. I hope Abe Vigoda has a passionate speech about race relations in America.
That's a great episode. Yeah, that's a great episode.
Love Barney Miller. I love Barney Miller. I really do.
It's really great. That Harris one is really good. And the way they handle that, which could be super preachy and heavy, or could be so dismissively silly. Like
right.
they get the tone just right on that episode, which is like almost impossible. And they managed to do that on a bunch of stuff, which I'm surprised by.
And they managed to do it with maybe one of the worst fonts in a TV intro like you'll ever see. It really looks like old like for like a first, second generation computer, which is probably what it was.
Yeah.
But it just looks like a Crayola, like someone just like literally wrote on the screen or something.
Mario Paint.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But they're like, look, we got this baseline. We don't even need to bother spending money on the
yeah, exactly. We're good.
There's a failed pilot on that they're burning off, which is weird in May. Normally they would do that later in the summer, but this is at 8:30 and it stars Barry Bostwick in a failed comedy pilot called Young Guy Christian, a playboy who combats international evil in his spare time. This spoof of super spy dramas is not on ABC's announced fall schedule. Pat Morita is in it. Shelley Long is in it. This is Shelley Long pre-Night Shift and pre-Cheers.
Oh, wow. Nice.
I'm kind of curious to see this. Like, I imagine it's terrible, but it sounds kind of fun.
I'll watch Bostwick in almost anything. I like to see how that guy works.
And the other failed pilot they're airing is called Car Wash. A Los Angeles car wash is manned by an antic crew, and this pilot for a series not on NBC's announced fall schedule, but in the role of Frank Ravelli, Danny Aiello.
Oh, nice. Hell yeah.
They're like these weird alternate realities where, like, if that show had been a huge hit, like, we would never would have got Danny Aiello and anything else, or who knows?
It's funny. It's funny too. There's how they used to do that, though. How they used to just be like, we're not going to do anything with this show. You guys want to watch the pilot?
It was their like they really would be like, we got to make some of this money back. It was a weird thing too to flat out say like, look, if you love this, sorry, you're never seeing more of this. We're not doing it. But watch it. But if you like it, forget it.
Extremely limited series.
Yeah.
That was all I got for Thursday.
There's an Alan King special on, and I always found Alan King to be maybe the most terrifying comedian of all time. He just is so mob guy.
Oh, that guy. Yeah.
He used in the early days of Comedy Central when they were the Comedy Channel, he had a show called Inside the Comedy Mind with Alan King, and it was just like a one-on-one interview with him and other comedians, and it was really good, but they were all terrified of him. Like he had this really weird energy, and if you've seen Cat's Eye, the Stephen King movie, there's a segment called Quitters Inc. where oh my God, what's his name? The actor from Videodrome. He's a scumbag. James Woods.
Yeah.
James Woods is trying to quit smoking, and so he joins this company that's run by all mob guys, so they use like literally mob tactics to get you to quit. So they're like, if we catch you smoking, we're going to cut your wife's fucking little finger off. Like it's that kind of stuff, and he's the mob boss. And it's
Okay,
like
gotcha.
perfectly. But the funniest thing here is these are some of the sketches that they talk about here. The 3 Mile Island nuclear accident, violence in the schools, and an updated version of the award-winning documentary Scared Straight.
Oh, wow. We're getting meta.
And it goes, still in production at press time, this show is also expected to feature a number on one of Alan's favorite targets, doctors. Like the case of a litigious physician who, quote, reported an income of $12,500, despite the fact that he treated over 50,000 patients and performed close to 2,000 operations. Like, what is this show?
I just love also, too, how we've been struggling with how to describe what a comedy sketch is for quite some time. Yeah. Apparently, if that's the case there.
Nothing's funnier than 3 Mile Island and Scared Straight with Alan King.
Yeah.
Oh, and Hal Linden, Barney Miller himself, is co-hosting.
Oh, nice. I hope there's a laugh track so I know when to laugh.
Yeah, I need to watch that because I'm like, what the hell would this even be? Oh, and then Dick Cavett, this is interesting, has Harold Lloyd on the silent film.
Yes.
That sounds really interesting.
I really do love like just going on YouTube and throwing on Dick Cavett stuff. Like his things with Orson Welles, if you've ever seen those, are great. He's got great Robert Mitchum episodes too. But yeah, just really good stuff.
That's the stuff where I'm like, how has no one made a movie about Robert Mitchum? Because just in that Cavett thing alone, where he's talking about working at Lockheed Martin and going blind, and then he was on a chain gang, and he put out Calypso records before he started acting. Like, it just sounds like a complete made-up thing.
Made up.
All true.
Yeah.
It's all true. Sounds like something Dan Tana would do. Make Me Laugh was also on at this time, which I forgot about that game show, which I don't know if you remember it. They brought it back.
That was another one where I was like, oh, I thought like some coked up producer at Comedy Central invented that. Like, I didn't realize how we've just been recycling stuff for so long.
Of course, because it was a 50s show, so this 70s version was even like a recycle of it. Because it's really if you think about that show, that's kind of the dumbest, most simple game show premise. It's basically a staring contest, but they're like you have to not laugh at a comedian. This episode, I'm sure these people won so much money because the comic is Gallagher and Carl Waxman.
Oh man, that's so funny to just imagine completely stone faced, but pieces of watermelon flying at it.
Yeah,
but not breaking because Gallagher's not funny.
Would you take that gig? I can't tell if that would be the most fun gig or just like setting you up to just have the worst time.
I do it with Gallagher. I don't know if I do it with anybody else.
He's the only person I ever faked a phone call to stop talking to.
Really? Oh, yeah.
It was at Bridgetown.
I remember that Bridgetown, and I just remember being like, because I remember watching a lot of those when I was a kid, and like, it's so dumb, but also some of it is like, well, he was doing something, and
he was a little bit clever,
guy, whatever. But then that was one of the first moments where I was like, and I think that might have been the same Bridgetown, or maybe not, but just when you start to see these people, like you see the nightmare haunted house version of what comedy can become.
Yes.
Like him and Andy Dick and stuff like that. And you're just like, oh boy, like yikes.
That was the one where
that's my Scared Straight.
Yeah, that would be Scared. Just Gallagher, that Bridgetown with Gallagher. The first night I was there, like in Portland, they're really strict about IDs, like getting into anywhere. Like even if you look old, they're like checking your ID. And apparently Gallagher hadn't had an ID in like 40 years or something, which of course, right?
Amazing.
So
awesome.
he's wearing a satin jacket that says Gallagher on it and has like a big embroidered cartoon of himself on the back. So he's trying to get in, and this like big black kid who's probably 19 doesn't know who the hell he is. It's like, no, man, you're not getting in if you don't have an ID. And he's like, I'm Gallagher. This is me. This is me. And he's like showing him the jacket. And I go, yeah, man, actually where he's from, you have the option of getting your driver's license as a satin jacket. And the kid was like, really? Where's that? And I'm like, no, it's not. So like the promoters ended up getting him in. But then later I was talking to some friends on the sidewalk in front of one of the theaters, and like Gallagher came up and started talking to them. And then I realized they kind of just kind of left, and it was just me and him. And I was like, God damn it. And he had this giant, it was basically a purse, and he's just eating Cheez-Its out of this purse, like nonstop Cheez-Its. And he's like, you're a comic? Tell me your jokes. I'll make them good. Tell me your jokes. And I'm like, no. And then he finishes the Cheez-Its, and it takes a whole box out, puts it in the trash, and then pulled out a second full box of Cheez-Its. And I was like,
still got it.
I got to take this call, man. Sorry.
That's hilarious.
That's when Peter Serafinowicz almost friggin' knocked him out, if you remember that.
I do remember that. That was I think that was actually the year we met.
Yeah.
I think that's where we met at that bridge.
That was insane. Oh man. Shot on variety shows on as well.
I saw that. So it's Sean Na.
Little
I'll probably flip over to that here and there.
Where are we? Friday night, final night of the week.
Friday night, I'm making time for my man, Rockford Files, 9 p.m. Rockford is smitten with his client, a blind psychologist who is being terrorized by a psychotic. This sounds like an Arrested Development episode description, actually. But yeah, this was. I've always loved James Garner. Always loved Rockford Files. I'd have to sit down and watch this.
I had his daughter on the show a few years back. And,
cool!
It was really funny. She said their next door neighbor was Steve McQueen. And Garner and McQueen would drag race like on their street.
Oh, that's awesome.
And like the first couple times the cops came, but they're like, I'm Steve McQueen and Garner. And they're like, yeah, fine, go on. You do whatever you want. You're Steve McQueen and James Garner. That's fine.
You play a cop on TV, so you're allowed to do this.
Yeah. That's a show that I definitely came around to later because it seemed too like old when I was a kid, but it's so well done.
It's very well. It's one of the best shows like that, whatever you want to call it, procedural, whatever. But and James Garner's just like amazing.
Have you ever heard I think it was Stephen J. Cannell story about that? So he's the guy who did like I think that's who it was. Who did like A-Team and all that stuff, and he would just flat out rip off, literally like almost to the dialogue level, episodes of Rockford Files, and he would like come to the set with like notebooks and stuff and like just rip off the shows. So one day on set, Garner saw him and knocked him out.
That's great. That's great. I love the back in the day people just knocked each other out. Yeah. That's so funny.
Have you ever seen the documentary Hail Hail Rock and Roll about Chuck Berry? Insane. Like if you ever just want to watch a fascinating documentary about an absolute crazy person, Hail Hail Rock and Roll is great. There's a scene where they're interviewing Jerry Lee Lewis, who's even crazier than him. And this is the story. He goes, my mama said to me, Chuck Berry's king of rock and roll. And I said, the hell he is. And so I went to his house with a gun and I said, you get down here, Chuck Berry. My mama said you're the king of rock and roll and you ain't the king of rock and roll. And so Chuck Berry whooped my ass. And I said, Chuck Berry, you the king of rock and roll. Like, why are you telling us? Like, that story should happen, but why are you telling us this?
It's like it's a weird like there is honor amongst thieves. Like there is a logic there. It seems like a madman, but actually he's the most honest man we've ever seen.
The official king of rock and roll. I kicked his ass. I can do this now. I'm like, oh boy. So yeah, it's that kind of thing. Also, this is a Boston edition, so I always have to point out the really weird thing here we had was a show called Candle Pins for Cash. Have you ever done candlepin bowling?
I was just about to say that's the sort of stick thing. Yeah. I've done it once. I think in Somewhere in New England.
Yeah,
Somewhere
it's
up there.
not fun. It's like someone's like, "Hey, let's make bowling not fun." And
Yeah.
this show was on every night, and it was literally people. They get like $5 for like a strike, and then they'd have someone on the phone from home who they'd be like playing for. And the show got canceled because the guy who hosted it got caught. Like, I think he was having sex in the Fenway with like a bunch of dudes.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And he was really famous around here, like definitely would have been recognized. Bob Gremier, I think his name was. So it was like a big controversy because everyone was like, what the fuck? We love Candlepins for Cash, but now you took it away because this
Can't
guy...
watch it no more.
Yeah. It's like, what a weird... No one else would understand that.
She was having a bacchanal in left field.
Yeah, come on. He's in the Victory Garden. What the hell? Incredible Hulk is also on that night, and this just is a prime example of how every episode of The Incredible Hulk, who's an amazing, like, cosmic level superhero, but the TV show, the villain was always like a developer. And this one is a major oil tycoon is against the Incredible Hulk because a young man seeking vengeance by blowing up the company's service stations.
Okay.
I'm like, yeah, that seems like the Hulk would be necessary there.
Maybe a SWAT team.
Get the Hulk in here. Made for TV movie called Hot Rod is on, which has Robert Culp in it, which doesn't look good. But that's opposite Rockford Files. It's a 2-hour Rockford Files, by the way.
I saw that too. I was like, damn, okay, I guess I'm really sitting down to watch this.
And then at 11:30, The Night Stalker's on, which is just a great show.
Nice.
This episode of The Night Stalker is probably the worst episode, but in the best possible way. And it stars Eric Estrada.
Great.
Eric
Bring it
Estrada
back.
plays a reincarnated Aztec god
Perfect.
who they have to sacrifice people to.
That's great. That was actually not a stretch for him because he actually is a reincarnated Aztec guy.
Yeah, he was like, I want his heart and his head. And then that's the week, and we have a couple more articles in here and a creepy Kmart ad of like little girls in their underwear.
Oh, yeah. I was like, what the fuck was that? Like,
Really weird.
Yeah, very strange. I was like, oh, I guess you could just get away with that back then.
I don't
Okay.
get this joke. One of the girls, this is like a girl power one on. There's a girl who's like literally like 9 years old in a bikini. But then this other girl, her tank top has a bird on it wearing suspenders. And then it just says, "This beats flying." And I'm like, is it a reference to something? Like, I don't understand that. It's like,
I guess is it like because like jogging became a thing or something? Like,
there's so many weird
Yeah.
70s sayings that I feel like are just people knew at the time that are like versions of Keep on Trucking that I'm like,
yeah,
that
yeah.
no
maybe
one
that's what it was.
remembers what they were referencing now.
Mhm.
They're like, oh, you don't remember the big "this beats flying" craze? We got the treatment hospitals use for hemorrhoids, Tux.
Looks good. Yep. Pre-moistened pads. You always love to read that. You always love to read that series of words.
I remember I really humiliated my dad once because he had to buy some of these and he couldn't find them at the drugstore. And so I must have been, I don't know, 10, 11. And I was like, hey, my dad needs those hemorrhoid wipes. Where are they? And the lady was like, oh, the hemorrhoid wipes. She's like, we got to keep them behind the counter. Kids keep stealing them. I was like, why?
What?
What are they doing with these? Yeah. Tux comes in. This is the best. Tux comes in jars of 40, 100, and an individually wrapped take-alongs. So you can
Take-alongs,
always have
aw.
a supply handy.
Aw.
Have a couple
Cute.
of take-alongs.
Yeah. For the road. Hey. Like a little, like after you finish your meal, and there's some out at the restaurant as you leave.
I'm just picturing someone giving those out for Halloween.
Yeah, one per kid.
One hemorrhoid pad per child, please. Then there's a really weird jockey underwear ad.
Mm-hmm.
It's a guy, he looks 50, but he's probably 25. And he's got a burgundy, like, tighty whities and a matching too tight t-shirt. Here's where I'm confused. first of all, he's got a cup of tea, so he's just hanging out drinking a cup of tea in his underwear.
Mm-hmm.
He's got his hand on his hip like you've interrupted him, and he's not happy about it. And it's an undershirt. Why does it have a breast pocket?
That's a good point. Yeah, there's the breast pocket. There's the fact that the t-shirt's tucked into
the
briefs.
underwear. Yeah.
Great understatement. I don't feel like they're playing up the under part enough to really like drive home the. And also, it's just such a weird artistic shot. Like you only seen one half of his face.
Oh, yeah,
like they're implying duality in this jockey ad for some reason. This was the best picture I guess they took on set.
It looks like he's giving you this tea. Like you interrupted him, and he's like, "Here's the tea you wanted. Hope you're happy."
It looks like he's going. So this is really how I'm going to wear the clothes in the picture, and then they took the picture.
Because the other thing is, it's the whole ad thing is they're like matching color coordinated briefs and t-shirts, but the jockeys have like white piping and because the shirt's tucked in, it makes it look like the underwear is like a garter belt, and it's just the t-shirt that he's tucked through the garters.
Yes.
Oh, that's
funny.
Yeah, very strange. Very, very strange. And then we have Reach Out and Touch Someone ad because, you have to do those. Then this is an interesting thing because this was a national article about Boston's Channel 68 and why it never came in well. It's literally, the article's called "Why is Boston's Channel 68 a Fuzzy Blur?" Because it was subscription TV. So this was scrambled picture over the airways, not on cable, which is very weird. I don't remember this, and it didn't last long. But it was showing movies. So it was like recent films like Fist, Julia, or The Spy Who Loved Me. So it was literally people were like, what? It was explaining pictures to you.
So it was like an early HBO or something like that. Yeah, interesting, cool.
And it's like,
I love that.
People be like, "What is this?" Durex water pill helps lose excess body weight, so you just pee out. A thing called Thins Span, lose fat. Take one appetite curb capsule a day. Look younger. Everything in here seems bad for you.
Yeah, it's like all. I bet if you looked up every single brand, they're not allowed to even talk about them anymore.
This one, introducing the tampon made especially for first-time tampon users.
Yeah, for the rookie tampons.
The training wheel tampon.
Yeah.
It looks like this woman looks like both Donnie and Marie as one person.
She does look like a weird doll.
And then a ride-on lawnmower. Have you ever done a ride-on lawnmower?
Yeah. I used to cut a lot of grass actually back in Florida. And they're pretty fun. Let's see. This looks pretty serious.
16 horsepower on that baby.
Yeah, that's not bad. Yeah. I think I was working a Sears or something. I forget, but
I've never rode one, and I feel like I've missed out.
It's fun. I mean, it's like it's kind of, it feels dumb though, because you feel like you're driving a car on your lawn.
I do see people who have lawns that do not need one, and I'm like, and they're always dudes who I'm like, you're doing this work because you probably hate your family,
right?
That's why you're outside. I don't know why you've picked something that'll make this go faster for you. But man, yeah, I'm not a big power tools guy. I don't know if I would do that. Are there any like old shows from you watched growing up that you watch now as like a comfort show?
Oh, that's a good question. I will kind of go back to the sort of like Newhart. I'll go back to Newhart here and there. Taxi was always, I think it might have literally been Taxi and Newhart were like the late, like maybe the last things Nick at Night played before it went to like infomercials. So I think those are kind of all seared in my brain. So I'll watch those here and there. But honestly, probably the most is I'll watch, and I didn't even watch it at the time. Obviously, I wasn't alive, but I'll just literally find like Dick Cavett playlists or whatever you want to say on YouTube and just like sit there and just watch and go to sleep to that too.
Oh yeah, I love those two. There's I don't know if you're an SCTV fan, but Rick Moranis does an amazing Dick Cavett.
Oh, really?
And
I didn't know
there's a
that.
sketch because no one really did Dick Cavett. There's a sketch where it's Dick Cavett interviewing himself,
That's
and
great.
Moranis is playing both, and it's so funny. It's so good. He
I'm
did
gonna
the
look
weirdest
that up.
impressions. He did Carlin.
Rick
He did
Moranis?
Don
That's
Rickles.
great.
Yeah. Oh, his Carlin's amazing because no one was shitting on Carlin. He does two great sketches. One is a version of like a Woody Allen movie, but starring Carlin,
Uh-huh.
and everyone's annoyed by him all the time. And then he does one. It's like a Don Kirshner's rock concert, and Carlin's the comic. And he comes out and he goes, "I've been thinking about underrated vegetables."
Oh no, I've seen that. That is very funny. That is very funny.
Beats me. But yeah, and so he's doing like very weird, and his Cavett is of that caliber. 'Cause
Okay,
it just-
nice.
It's so good.
I'm gonna look that up right now.
Cavett on Cavett. He's like, he does. It's perfect. Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for doing this. It's been so nice to talk to you and see you again.
Ken, thanks for having me, man. Appreciate it.
There you go. That's Allen. Go to his website, buy his album, watch his comedy. Email me at tvguidancecounselor@gmail.com, ken@kenread.com, and be here next week for a brand new edition of TV Guidance Counselor.
She was having a bacchanal in left field.